How Project Slayers betrayed its community. Project Slayers has now updated in almost half a year and has been steadily losing players since update 1. Today we will be discussing how I think the developers of Project Slayers seemingly betrayed their own community. Now let's get straight into this discussion. Project Slayers released back in July of 2022 and immediately became the biggest Demon Slayer game on Roblox. It overtook basically all other games because of its graphics, which were very similar to GPO, which caused the Grand Peace Online community to gravitate towards it. Project Slayers released with little to no breathings and demon arts, which caused many people to claim that the game lacked content. It was justified because after you beat Final Selection and get your breathing and or demon art, you would just farm Nezuko or Zenitsu for drops. I never was personally a big fan of farming for things in Project Slayer. Ended up quitting after beating Final Selection and getting my breathing because the game was indeed just your basic bandit beater, but at that time it was excusable for many, and even I excused it for being that because all other games at that time pretty much the same. Now I want to briefly talk about the PvP of Project Slayers, which is, you guessed it, brain dead. Project Slayers, just like many other Roblox anime games, was unbalanced like hell. You see infinite spam combos with blood demon arts and toxic combos with breathings like thunder breathing, which made PvP very unbearable and truly made the game unplayable if you already didn't like the PvE of the game. The PvP was a major no for me, and I got quite bored of the game after the first week of playing since the game lacked a ton of content. It was a repetitive system before and after you get your crow because there were no real Demon Slayer missions you could do because the game essentially was a boss rush at the end game of the release of the game. Project Slayers, after about a month of release, started to die off, which was to be expected since the game released with practically nothing, but that's what you'd expect from your basic Demon Slayer game.
Oh, damn!
The only reason why it survived for so long is because essentially it was at that time the only Demon Slayer game people deemed worth playing after Demonfall fell off. After the game basically died off, people had to speculate where and when an update was coming. This is where I immediately knew that Project Slayers was going to be getting inconsistent updates from now on. Project Slayers has built up a crazy community both on YouTube and just among the player base of the game. Many YouTubers had fully switched their content from Demonfall to Project Slayers, like Oratix and another big YouTuber, Red Weeb, who would do these major Roblox spending videos on clan spins, which the whole clan spin system, in my opinion, was the biggest scam of them all. But the game even helped smaller YouTubers get their rise, like YouTubers like Tough and Off Saints. This kept the game going just a bit longer than it should have, but as we know, it was only going to get worse for the Project Slayers community. Then finally, Project Slayers developers confirmed that update 1 would be coming to the game and it would be a Mugen Train update. The update came just about 4 months after the game released, which definitely was too long of a wait considering how little content the game had, but I digress. Update 1 dropped, and to my and other people's surprise, it was actually kinda decent. Not great, but it was alright. The Mugen Train event was actually really well made and was fun for like the first week or two, then slowly disappeared into irrelevancy once people got tired of seeing the same cutscenes and doing the same remedial tasks for the same rewards. This update added flame breathing, mist breathing, beast breathing, and on the demon side they had swamp, destructive, and whatever Enmu's is called. Although they added these new things, many people discovered that flame breathing was essentially a reskin of water breathing and practically the same besides just a couple of moves, which would become a normal thing for the Project Slayers developers to do. This update added the big city, which in the game was called Oigahara, which served as a hub place for World 2. It also served as a place for the new game mode that was called Dungeon. Now I am not a big fan of dungeons or Roblox anime games. It is just a mode where you fight waves and waves and waves of enemies for mediocre items with no interactive features. Project Slayers made it kinda worth playing because you could buy EXP for points that you would earn from a surviving wave. I personally didn't play dungeons for that long, and I do see why people may have played it. The game had even more clans, with Rengoku being the only Supreme being added, which arguably wasn't really that good because it was missing some buffs. The level cap was raised to 175, so they had to add your basic caves and some mini bosses, which people ended up ignoring to go do dungeons because beating bandits basically gave no EXP at one point. Although update 1 was without its faults, it arguably still was a solid update with a good amount of content to last the community about a month before people would begin to leave. In my opinion, the primary issue with Project Slayer since launch was that for me the game never really felt like a Demon Slayer game. Now let me explain why. Project Slayers to me felt like GPO but with Demon Slayer element. GPO doesn't feel like a One Piece game either, and it feels like a grind and trade fruit and item simulator with a battle royale mixed in. Nothing in Project Slayers felt like you were actually being a demon slayer or even a demon. But besides, you were just beating up the respective demon or slayer for the majority of the game. It lacked depth since the beginning, and many people ignored these flaws because the game was something new and it looked pretty, which eventually led to the downfall once people actually exposed the game for what it really was. Project Slayers was a game that tried to be a great Demon Slayer game, but essentially failed for me, in my opinion. It just wasn't immersive enough. It lacked depth in its progression in the end game, which basically was a grind for tier 10 chests 500 times so you get the drops you want. The community of Project Slayers YouTubers and loyal players really got the short end of the stick. After update 1 was over, it essentially was no updates for the game besides bug fixes. The reason this was a problem was because update 1 was content that could only last about 2 weeks before it got redundant, so no updates for almost half a year really got the community angry at TechyOP and its development team. Many YouTubers started making videos saying that the game was dying because it truly was, as it was already apparent that the development team essentially weren't working on update 2 for a while. TechyOP, the lead developer for Project Slayer, started helping work on another well-known game known as Pixel Piece, which of course left the Project Slayers community a bit confused. As we know, Pixel Piece was a failure through and through, so he basically wasted his time to abandon work on Project Slayers just for a few bucks. Not saying that TechyOP can't work on multiple projects, but when your game is dying and desperately needs an update and your community is fiending for something new, you must step in as a lead dev and provide and deliver. But again, I digress. The future of Project Slayers, TechyOP confirmed that the next update will be update 1.5, which in my opinion is absurd. After almost half a year of no updates, Project Slayers dropped 2 new showcases for snow breathing, which got a lot of backlash because it was essentially another disappointing breathing that no one asked for, sort of similar to what Foyu was doing with Heal Heal. Then they dropped a trailer for War Fans, which is another weapon type in the game, which I guess is cool, another infinite combo weapon for them to reskin 1,000 times, but that's essentially what they have dropped as of right now. We can predict that update 1.5 will be a small update with a few breathings and a few new weapons, but after 5 months of waiting, not gonna lie, that is very disappointing and unfortunate for the people who actually play Project Slayer and wanted more actual content. I think Project Slayers does have a bright future as long as it's the only Demon Slayer game on the market, because if competition ever comes, I think that the game will be in trouble because it seems that Project Slayers will not be receiving consistent updates from TechyOP and his team. If the developers can somehow make the Swordsmith's Village arc great in Project Slayers, I think the game could be regarded as the best Demon Slayer game we've ever seen on Roblox, if they revamp some things as well. But I believe it just comes down to how much the devs and TechyOP himself cares about the community and the quality of the game. I would hate to see Project Slayers follow the exact same route that GPO has taken recently, where they throw the game overboard for cash and greed. I believe they can recover and will, because to be honest, there is no other Demon Slayer game out right now that is as good, excluding all the other CC games. I do, however, want to get a future Demon Slayer game that actually feels like you are on the journey of becoming a Slayer or even a demon, and includes some storytelling elements even. Just something unique that both Project Slayers and Demonfall have failed to capture, in my opinion. That is my personal opinion on Project Slayers and why I low-key think that they betrayed their community. Now, as I say in the video, if you guys enjoyed this video and you would like to see more content like this, drop a like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.